Hello, my name is Michael Lambert, and today I want to start with the shocking news we all received last week from Nigel Farage when he appeared on Newsnight, looking very, very serious with his serious face on, looking really quite grumpy actually, when he informed us that Brexit has failed. I mean, you could have knocked me down with a feather. I'm sure the whole nation must have been shocked. I mean, it was all going so well. But no, Nigel said it was a failure. And he went on to explain. He explained that it was nothing wrong with Brexit. Brexit was brilliant. No, what it was the British politicians. You see, they were much worse than the people in the commissioners in Europe. I mean, that's quite something when you think about it, because the commissioners in Europe, I mean, they are just, I mean, as bad as you can get. I mean, they've had us shackled for 45 years. I mean, they've made all our laws. They've been bossing us around. They've been taking all our money, treating us terribly. I mean, they've held us back. But to say that the politicians who handled Brexit were even worse, I mean, that was awful. And so, well, I don't know. We're high and dry now. I don't know what we're going to do. Now we've Brexit, and it's failed. And as for Nigel, I mean, as I say, he was very grumpy. I don't know what he's going to do. I know he's still the president of Reform UK. That's the party which the leader is Richard Tice, who said a few months ago that the Tories ought to look out, that he was, they were more or less going to take over. He thinks he's going to be Prime Minister. They're on their way. They fielded 500 candidates in the local elections, and they did win 6 seats. So on the way, I suppose. But as I say, I think poor Nigel, who likes being on the television and likes laughing a lot and so on, I think he's going to have a tough time. And I couldn't help thinking when I saw him on Newsnight about when we were leaving the EU the last day, and he was waving his little paper flag, his little paper Union Jack, and smirking at everybody. And I thought, wasn't too smart, was it, Nigel? But anyway, 2 or 3 things have happened the last week that I think suggest that things are maybe not all sweetness and light in the Conservative Party, and that it may be fracturing a bit, and I'm not sure that little Rishi's position is all that strong. First thing that happened was a conference that took place in Bournemouth. And this was something called the Conservative Democratic Organisation. Never heard of it before, but anyway, that's what it was. And all sorts of extremely notable people, such as Priti Patel. I think they let her out of a box for the day, and the lovely Nadine Dorries, she was there as well. And of course, Jacob Rees-Mogg, he's always available to dispense his superior wisdom to all and sundry. He was there as well, and I think it was really a sort of bring back Boris or Boris fan club meeting. Really, they're all very keen that Boris should be the Prime Minister again, despite everything. And a few days later, there was another conference. It was called the National Conservative Conference, and this took place in London, just quite near to Parliament. Two cabinet ministers appeared and spoke. One was Braverman, who clearly saw this as an opportunity to put in her bid for the leadership, I think, and Michael Gove spoke as well. Of course, Jacob Rees-Mogg turned up, and he again dispensed his supreme wisdom to those who were there. It was an extremely right-wing affair. It was organised by something called the Edmund Burke Foundation, which is an American sort of think tank, extremely right-wing. I think the Americans, they must be looking at the UK at the moment. They must be saying, so many rich pickings over there, so many bargains we're going to get, there's all this property they're going to pick up and all the rest of it, and they must obviously want to be getting into politics as well, but who knows. Anyway, amongst the people who were there was Danny Krueger. He's an MP. He's a son of the television cook, what you call Prue Leith. He said that heterosexual families are the only way to ensure a safe and functioning society. So if you're a same-sex couple and you've got children, then, I mean, you're not safe. You're not safe. You won't function properly. You're going to ruin society. So we don't want any more of that nonsense. Rees Mogg said that gerrymandering was not desirable, and admitted that the voter ID scheme was gerrymandering, and therefore making another gaffe. Other speakers talked about returning the national service, and also a desire to have more, for British people, that's white people, to have more children, because we've got a falling population. The last thing we want is to replace the falling population with foreigners, especially coloured ones. I mean, that's really the end of the world, isn't it? David Starkey was there. He said that racial justice groups are jealous of the primacy of the Holocaust. It was rather nice. I always think people who use the Holocaust lightly in statements like that, I mean, really not quite right in the head, I think. Douglas Murray, a sort of talking head and a writer of some sort, he said that people shouldn't be deterred from loving their country just because the Germans mucked up twice in the last century. So the Holocaust was the Germans mucking up. They kind of got it wrong. I think this is all this move to the right and this Braverman pushing herself. I think it's all an attempt to replace Sunak. I think all these people that make these sort of statements, talk about these sort of subjects, give these sort of speeches, that they're all racists. And they're all probably very miffed that we've got an Indian gentleman as our Prime Minister, and they probably like to see the back of him. They know, as he knows, that the MPs didn't vote for him as a first preference. It was always Truss, and likewise the membership of the Tory party in the country, all 170,000 of them, chose Truss over him. And I think they'd like to see the back of him, but I don't think it's going to work, because I think the British voters don't really like extreme parties. It doesn't matter whether it's left or right. I think they were all frightened of Corbyn because they thought he was too far left and would never, ever have made him Prime Minister. And I think likewise with this lot, with Braverman, I mean, she's never going to be Prime Minister. I mean, because people won't vote for them. So we'll see. We'll see. It's work in progress. But this all happened whilst Sunak was away most of the time. Now, the other big event, the historic, momentous event that took place last week was the state visit of our former Prime Minister Liz Truss to Taiwan. She went there to dispense her advice to the whole world, really, to America and to the EU and particularly to Sunak, but to everyone, and to the Taiwanese, of course, as to how to handle China. And I'm sure the whole world was hanging on with bated breath, hoping that she wouldn't start World War III. This is a woman of no consequence whatsoever. This is a woman with the charisma of cold porridge. I mean, a complete and utter non-entity, a total failure as Prime Minister. She was Prime Minister for 44 days, during which time she crashed the economy with her friend Kwasi Kwarteng. Kwarteng, incidentally, was on the television last week, and he was saying how he had no remorse, no regret about what had happened, and he wasn't going to apologise for anything. It would all have been fine if they hadn't done it a bit too quickly, and that was all he had to say about it. I mean, these are just dreadful people, but nonetheless, what Truss's motives are in going to Taiwan, I can't imagine. But the Chinese embassy said that her visit was a dangerous political show which will do nothing but harm to the UK. And the chair of the UK Foreign Affairs Committee said that this was the worst possible example of Instagram diplomacy. And I'd imagine that Instagram will be well and truly swamped with pictures from her trip, because she likes to put lots of pictures of herself on Instagram. Now, whilst all this is going on and everybody's stabbing Sunak in the back, he was off in Iceland. He went to Iceland for a meeting of EU heads of state. And it was mainly to discuss Ukraine, but he gave a speech in which he addressed immigration, and he said how it was a dangerous threat. And he referred to illegal immigration, regardless of the fact that there's no such thing if you're an asylum seeker and you turn up in a country that is not illegal immigration, unless it's the UK, of course, because anyone coming here now across the channel is considered a criminal. And I think he kind of wanted to persuade everybody that really we don't want any immigrants in our country. We don't want any asylum seekers. We let some in from Hong Kong, and reluctantly we let some in from Ukraine, but we don't want any more. And despite the fact that per capita we take less less asylum seekers than most countries in Europe. We don't want any more. And we'd like the French, if they wouldn't mind, to stop them coming across. And also he tried to persuade them that our scheme to send them all and dump them in the middle of Africa, where there'd be... they're at complete utter loss. He would try to persuade them that was a good scheme. And needless to say, he got a very cold shoulder, and a lot of people were very rude about him and about his proposals. But of course, the whole thing was just to appease the right wing who are plotting against him back in London. The whole situation is just utterly crazy. Anyway, he's now in Japan. And on the way to Japan, he gave a press conference amongst all the journalists on the plane, and he was asked what are the benefits of Brexit. Now, bear in mind that Brexit has meant that we've lost a lot of the EU market, that our exports are down substantially, that we have huge shortage of labour, that very few people want to come and invest in the UK now because there are the barriers to doing trade with the rest of Europe if you're based in the UK. Despite all that damage and the fact that just about everyone in the country knows that Brexit's been a disaster, he gave his response as follows to the benefits of Brexit. He said, "We cut VAT on sanitary products." That's tampons to you and me. So tampons are now cheaper as a result of us leaving the EU. We've lost 100 billion of exports and 40 billion of tax income, but tampons are to be cheaper. And also he said that when you go to the pub this summer, beer will be cheaper because he's removed some of the excise duty. So beer might be 10 pence or 20 pence a pint cheaper if the publican passes on the savings, which almost certainly they won't. So that's it. Absolutely wreck the economy, but you get cheaper tampons, and the owner of the pub will make another few pence on a pint of beer when he sells it. I mean, it's just bonkers. He then said, I introduced free ports, a Brexit benefit around the country, attracting jobs and investment to lots of different places. Well, we could have free ports before. In fact, I think we probably did for a short while. They didn't work, I believe. Leaving the EU did not change whether or not we could have free ports. The only free port I'm aware of, and maybe there are others, is the one that's being built in Teesside, which is surrounded by scandal on the scale of PPE corruption. I mean, it is just, if you read the stories, it's been all over the Private Eye and it's been all over the Financial Times. It's an absolute scandal. And the famous thing about free ports is they are famous for being a gateway for smuggling, because the people that run the free ports control the entry and exit. And so if we do ever eventually introduce import controls at Dover, which we don't have at the moment, smuggling will just transfer to the free ports, and so it's hardly a big advantage. And well, they're still on about us being a worldwide technology superpower. I mean, it's staggering. And Hunt talking about building another 12 Canary Wharfs around the country. I mean, they're so deluded, just utterly deluded. And this business with the technology superpower, I mean, in the first place, people are not coming here, they're not attracted here in the way that they were. People who are really skilled and clever and well educated in technology, they've got other places to go to. They can go to America, they can go to the EU. And in some cases, they can even go to China. But there are places that are far advanced, far more advanced than us. And we're not getting no longer getting any money from the EU, no more getting any technology grants and so on. And it's, when we start talking about a technology superpower, we talk about standing shoulder to shoulder with China and America and the EU. And there's this business with the semiconductors, as we all know, Taiwan is the big manufacturer, the big manufacturing centre of semiconductors, and they supply the whole world, really. And there is the threat of China invading them, as they said they intend to do. If they were to do so, then it would be really, really important there were alternative suppliers elsewhere, and I think everybody's waking up to this. So the Taiwanese are building a big factory in America, and all over the world people are building factories. Now, the Americans have invested 42 billion, this is pounds, 42 billion pounds in semiconductor development and manufacture. The EU has granted 37 billion, or said they're going to grant 37 billion for the same semiconductor development. And we announced this morning, proudly announced, that we're going to invest 1 billion. But that's going to be over 10 years, 100 million a year. And you don't get much for 100 million when you're developing semiconductors. And so we're a minnow. We're a tiny minnow. Had we remained in the EU and our 1 billion plus the 37 billion from the EU, we'd have been part of a 38 billion fund to develop semiconductors. But out on our own, it's just dreaming, isn't it? And on top of all that, we know about the car companies, don't we? We know that Stellantis have said that they manufacture Peugeot and various other brands. They've said that unless we can renegotiate our deal with the EU, they'll be off. And Jaguar Land Rover have said the same. And I mean, motor manufacturing in the UK employs 800,000 people. And they're all going to be off if we can't renegotiate a deal, which the EU have said they're not going to renegotiate. So all in all, it's really looking pretty desperate, as I seem to end saying every week. But hey ho, tampons are cheaper, so keep smiling. Anyway, if you watch this far, thank you very much indeed. And if you haven't already subscribed, I would appreciate if you mind doing so, if you wouldn't mind recommending me to anybody else you think might be interested. And until next week, bye for now.